my book, The Godmother, about Mother Pasqualina. I was with Mother Pasqualina, who was Pius XII's secretary for about 42 years. And she described the day that the Holy Father was in the Vatican Gardens. This was 1954, and he was gone a longer period of time than normally. He took a daily walk in the gardens, doing reading and meditation. He came back and he was shaken. And she, of course, asked what had happened. And he described the vision that he had of the sun at Fatima. You just recall that Pius XII was consecrated a bishop on May 13th, 1917, the same time of Fatima, right? Anyway, he saw the sun of Fatima, the dancing sun, swirling, and he described all of it to her. She was enthralled with the whole thing. It came as a complete shock. And she asked him, I remember her telling me this very well. She asked him, was anything said? Was there a message to that? Or was it just this vision? As if that was not enough, right? And she said, the Holy Father answered with one word: apostasy. That was the only word he used, apostasy. And she told me also that she had gone immediately afterwards, after she got him a tea and something to calm his nerves. He was shaken. She went to the dictionary to look up the word, because believe me, in 1954, nobody knew what apostasy was. I mean, it wasn't in our Catholic vocabulary. This was something that was going to happen, who knows when, where. And she found out that it meant exactly what it meant. Something else too. Pius XII was very, very close to Padre Pio. I don't know if people are aware of this, but Mother Pasqualina told me also that the Holy Father never made a serious decision without contacting Padre Pio. Any major decision he was about to make, he asked Padre Pio's counsel and prayer. When Pius XII died, a few days later, maybe a month later, Mother Pasqualina received a written letter from Padre Pio describing Pius XII's death and his entry into heaven, which he saw during Mass. He was saying Mass. He stopped during Mass for this vision. She wrote back and she said, I can't remember the exact time. She said, the only problem I have with this, she said, thank you for your letters, marvelous, Padre Pio, but the Holy Father died at this time, not at that time. He was off by 2 hours or something. And he wrote back a second letter. I saw both of these letters. She had them in her possession. He said, woman, I'm writing and telling you when he entered heaven. I'm not at all concerned when he stopped breathing. I'm talking about his soul entering into heaven, right? Anyway, this was Pius XII. This was Pius XII's sole word at that vision of Fatima in the gardens: apostasy. Apostasy. And therefore, I'm simply agreeing with what you're saying. It bothered Padre Pio tremendously because he knew this was coming. He knew this was coming. And during his lifetime, there was no real reason to think it was coming, because things were, at least superficially, pretty good. Status quo. They were all right. But he saw something that we're seeing today. And as frightened as he was, a man of God, is to put it lightly, a living saint. The man was a living saint who suffered tremendously. There was a Jesuit priest, a confessor that I had years ago, who said to me, if you can read the New Testament and not be reading your own biography, you're not reading it correctly. If you haven't been betrayed, if you haven't been beaten down, if you haven't been insulted, if you haven't been crucified even to self, all of these things, if they haven't happened to you, there's something wrong with you as a Christian, or you're not reading it correctly, right? Padre Pio lived and suffered for the church. What he experimented, what he lived in his own flesh, the church is also to live. And the church is going through the passion right now. We are going through the passion. I'm convinced of that. The passion of Christ and the betrayal. And the betrayal. We're going to see it, I believe, clearly in the not too distant future. At the same time, let me just end with this. I find these fascinating times in which to be alive. I really do. I really do. Because a lot is going to happen. And you talk about personal involvement. There is personal involvement. Each one of us is going to be asked to take a stand. We're not going to be like a group, like a herd of sheep, buying, and yes, I'll do it. Each one is going to have to decide sides. And I know that all of us here are going to remain faithful to the Catholic Church. We're going to remain faithful to the faith that we've received. But these things are happening. Something that is unique to all of this is we have had schisms before. We have had groups who are called apostasy groups in the history of the church. What we have never had, and schisms, 1054 being the largest, the greatest, we have never had this happen from the top of the church. Never has this happened from the top of the church. Never happened from the head of the church. The head of the church, of course, is Jesus Christ. But I'm talking about the spiritual head of the church on earth. This has never happened this way. So these are, to put it lightly, interesting times. But they're going to require from each one of us a response. That's kind of frightening too. So we've got to be ready for a lot of things. But yes, Padre Pio was right on, as Pius XII was right on, as Mother Pasqualina witnessed and told me.
I am pleased to announce the launch of the new LSNTV app, which can bring all of LifeSite News' top video content direct to your phone, tablet, computer, and TV so that you can bypass the censors and keep fighting with us for life, faith, family, and freedom. Don't be alone in the darkness. We've been canceled. Fight the cancellation. Download the app.